Inheritance and Interfaces, Chapter 9, Part 2. So here's a programming tip for you. Use a single class for variation in values, inheritance for variation in behavior. So if you just need to change the values in the object, use one class. If you have to change the way a class behaves or an object behaves based on some circumstances, use inheritance. An example might be if two vehicles vary only by their fuel efficiency, use an instance variable for that, not inheritance. If they behave differently, use inheritance. For example, if we want to build on this question model, if we want to implement different types of questions, a multiple choice question is going to behave differently than a fill in the blank, that's different than a matching, that's different than a true false, and so forth. Does that make sense? I hope so. So behavior differences, use inheritance. Differences in values, just use a single class. Be careful not to overuse inheritance because it is possible to needlessly make your programs complex. So consider implementing a choice question to handle a multiple choice question, such as in what country was the inventor of Java born? 1 Australia, 2 Canada, 3 Denmark, 4 United States. How does a choice question differ from question? Well, it stores 3 possible choices, 1, 2, 3, and 4, in addition to the question. So there must be a method for adding multiple choices. And to display it, you must display the multiple choices. And then finally, the answer, it's not listed here, but think about the answer. It's going to, you could store it in a number of different ways, but you can store it in a string, such as answer, where you would just say 1, 2, 3, or 4. That would be similar to the question type and the superclass question type. So subclasses inherit from the subclass all the public methods that it does not override. Override means that you write a method of the same name with the same parameter list in the subclass as you have in the superclass. Subclasses also inherit all instance variables. So it has all instance variables, but recall, if they are private, they are inaccessible in the subclass. You can only access them in the superclass. So the subclass can add new instance variables, it can add new methods, it can override methods in the superclass, which means to change the implementation of the inherited methods. You form a superclass by specifying what is different from the subclass, by specifying what is different from the superclass. So, overriding superclass methods. Can we reuse any of the methods in this question class example? So if we can reuse them, but perhaps use a little, provide a little modification, we can do partial overriding. But inherited methods perform exactly the same. And if we need to change how a method works, we write a new, more specialized method in the subclass. We can use the same method name in the superclass as same method name as is in the superclass. And when a subclass object is calling that method, it will look in the subclass first, and if it finds a method with the right method signature, it will execute the one in the subclass and never go to the superclass. It must take all of the same parameters. This will override the superclass method. We don't need to provide any special keyword. There is a Java doc comment you can add for overriding, but you do not need to add any actual code to indicate that it's overridden. All you do is just redefine the method in the subclass. The new method will be invoked with the same method name when it is called on a subclass object. So when you have an object of a subclass that calls that method, it will look in the subclass first, and when it finds the method header that matches, it will execute the method in the subclass, not the superclass. If you have a subclass object that calls a method, and it looks in the subclass and it cannot find a method signature that matches the method call, it just goes right on up to the superclass and says, okay, didn't find it in the subclass, let me look in the superclass. It goes up in the superclass and looks for that match up there. So planning the subclass, we use the keyword extends to inherit from the superclass. So in this example, we say public class choice question extends question. and it's going to inherit the text and answer instance fields or instance variables. And then we want to add new instance variable choices. So we're going to add, for our choice question, it's a multiple choice question, we are going to add an array list that's going to indicate the different answer choices that we can pick from. And then we have a method to add to that list, public void add choice, which gives us a string choice and then a Boolean correct, and which would be true or false for the right answer. And then we have a method that overrides the display because we have to display each of these choices. A subclass inherits from the superclass and extends the functionality of the superclass. So your syntax is public class, superclass extends, subclass extends superclass. And then notice that in this syntax example, they used an uppercase S in subclass and an uppercase S in superclass because class names typically start with an uppercase letter. Inside the class, forgive me, we add any additional instance variables we want and any additional methods that we want to add. So the instance variables are added to the superclass. They're added to the subclass, which means in addition to the ones it inherits from the superclass. And the same with the methods. So the method that to implement the add choice, it's going to receive two parameters, the text for the choice and then a Boolean denoting whether or not it is correct. Because we used an array list for the choices, we can just use the add method and it throws that array list onto the end, which is very handy. If correct, so if this is the correct answer, then we set our string choice equal to choices.size. So whatever is the current number of items in our array list, that one is correct. And think about that for a minute to just see how this is working. The latest one that we added, if that one is the correct answer, then we set our choice string, we're going to set our correct answer to choice string, but choice string is going to be equal to the empty string concatenated together with choices.size, because the size of the array list is the number of, the size indicates which one is the correct answer. Let me know if you need any more explanation on that. I'm happy to draw some pictures and walk you through it. Finally, we set answer to choice string. So self-check. Suppose a class employee is declared as follows: public class employee, private string name, private double base salary, public void set name, public void set base salary, public string get name, public double get salary. Note the two set methods, those are the mutators, and the two get methods, those are the accessors. Declare a class manager that inherits from the class employee and adds an instance variable bonus for storing a salary bonus. Omit constructors and methods. So think this through for a minute and hit the pause button if you like. How would you declare a class manager that inherits from the class employee? And then how would you add an additional instance variable for bonus? Our first line is public class manager extends employee, open brace, private double bonus. So we're adding an instance field for bonus. And then we've omitted the constructors and methods because that's not what we're concerned with right now. Which instance variable does manager class from self-check 7 have? Now, unfortunately, the animations are not correct here, but which instance variables does the manager class have from the previous example? Let's go back. Oops, darn it. Okay, so we added the instance variable bonus, or the instance field bonus. It also has access, it also has the two instance fields from the superclass, so name and base salary. So in answer to this one, it's got name, base salary, and bonus. In the manager class, provide the method header, but not the implementation, so that means you don't have to write the method body, for a method that overrides the getSalary method from class employee. You can hit the rewind a little bit, take a look at the getSalary method in class employee, look at what it's returning and what it's receiving as a parameter. It's an accessor method, and write the method header that would override that inside the manager class. public class manager extends employee. We've got other stuff. Public double get salary with no parameters. So we're returning a double. The method name is get salary, and the parameter list is empty. Which methods does the manager class get? Which methods does the manager class from the self-check 9 inherit? So it inherits all the methods inside the base class, the superclass, get name, and set name, and it also inherits set base salary. The get base salary we just overrode in the previous example, so it's going to inherit these others, and we're going to override the the get base salary.